the transform of all the objects to use the center of the world as their center of origin. So I'll go save, make sure I have it saved, and then select the hull and probably go into edit mode, see whether it's actually at the center of the world, and I can see it's mirrored, so I need to make sure that it's still at that center point origin. And looking at the modifiers, obviously the modifiers rely on the center of origin, so if I disable all the modifiers, just focus on the mirror, disable the mirror and see whether that points at the center of the world. It seems to be at the center of the world, so I'll just enable the mirror, enable all the modifiers, and probably apply the transform. So I've applied transform the hull. That's how I'm going to do the same thing for every other model in the ship. So I'll save, I'll attempt an export to Blender, select the mesh, the ship hull, select the mesh, select objects. Apply transform is not applied now, so let's see what it looks like. So that's the problem. Now I'm sure it's because we did not select the apply transform, so that is the expected response or the expected state of the export. So if we select apply transform this time, I will look into Unity. It should probably align. Yeah, so that means all the modifiers and transforms are applied, and then it's placed in the right position. So I need to delete these other models because they don't really fit in. I need to export them from Blender. So going back into Blender, I'm going to select the bow, and selecting the bow surface, the bow sides, apply all transforms, make sure it's all right, and then next thing will be to so I'm going to check why some things are hidden there. Yeah, all right. So unfortunately I didn't have this in place when I resized the ship, so I probably need to undo everything using Ctrl Z, go far back to when I first resize the ship. So all those items, and I'll unhide those items, bring them back into place. So first of all, undo everything. I'm going to look at it from the side. The measurement, the values you see there are the measurement from the ship, so I can see them over the model. So I'm just going to try to resize it to 269.1. So we're watching the size out there, 269.1, almost there. Yeah, I think that's fine, 269.1.11 meters, which is quite close to the required length of the Titanic. So I'll probably work with that and hide the enclosure so I can work with the ship. So now that I have the 2969, I can reposition the ship. I need to make sure that the center of the ship is at the center of the world. This will make it easier to export items into Unity. They'll simply snap into the right position. So I'm just going to select everything and move the ship. Try to position that center of gravity, or assume center of gravity of the ship at the center of the world. So I could try this in edit mode, but unfortunately it make it a bit tougher to move the center of gravity around. So what I'll probably do is do this in object mode. So when exporting to Unity, I'll just apply the transforms. So I'm just going to object mode, probably going to solid view as well. But I guess the wireframe will should be fine, so I'll just move it and try to position it there. So the objective is to get that dot in the middle of that 3D cursor and scroll in further in to make sure I get an accurate position. And then try scrolling again, see how far in I can go. There might be other ways to do this, but I just feel from the experience I've had so far, It just makes sense to be able to just move it down and try to position it in the center of the wall. And the essence of doing this is to make sure that when I place several items onto the ship, they sort of snap to the same position in Unity as well. So I'm going to look at it from the top, pressing 7, and try to move it straight to the center of the wall. I'll probably press GX and move it along the X-axis. Try to make sure that it's actually at the center of the wall. So I'll need to go back, press GX and move it back to that position. Yeah, scroll in if possible, if you can scroll it any further. Scroll in and try to get that exact position. There might be a need to look at it from the front, but I think that's fine. Once we have that exact spot, now we can be sure that the shape has the same length and has its center at the center of the wall. So I'll save this and start to look at exporting the model. So I'll save this and I'll probably go into solid viewport shading so I can see the hull. Next thing I can do is to apply the transform for the hull so it doesn't give me any problem now because it's a single object, and then try to export to Unity. So I'll make sure I select object mesh and apply transform this time. Go into the right folder, select the model itself and export. And let's go see what it looks like in Unity. You can see it doesn't change, which means it's perfect now. That is the exact size we need for the ship eventually. So what I'll need to do is to make sure that every object, now the character is still standing there. I might just move it back to the ship, but we'll probably do that after we've brought in the items on the bowl. So I'll look at the bowl base or surface and try to export that, but I'll probably remove that. So the shading there was by the shrink wrap. The shrink wrap is supposed to be used to straighten the sides when we inserted the holes on the sides, and I'll probably hide that for now. Apply the transform. You can see that the transform has values that it shouldn't have. 0, all should be 0 and 1. So I'll just apply the transform and then export as well, and then go into, so I'll need to go into the selected folder, bowl items, and give it the right name, bowl deck surface, and then make sure I select mesh, select object. I'll probably create a name for the export configuration, so that works. Unity Titanic, and then export. And then when I go into Unity, it should come there. So when I drag this into the shape parent, it should snap into position. Exactly that's what we're looking for. We want them all to snap into position without having to manually drag them across Unity. So we need the models to be properly integrated in Unity, in Blender, and then when we export it to Unity, it should be just accurately placed. And then we can export the surface as well. I'll probably rename it. Make sure the transform is properly in place. Apply transforms. Export.